at this one, the December Fantasy Booking Challenge. Now, my throat is getting a little dry, so I will go first. Mine is not as long because I'm still recovering a little bit still under the weather, but I told Mike I still got it. Mine goes in bullet points a little bit. I had to change something last minute because I wanted to ask them to kind of get you to be like, oh, wait a second, I remember this. So my December booking challenge that Mike gave me was that I had to book Mr. Kennedy as Mr. Money in the Bank, actually winning Money in the Bank. And then we'll get to my challenge for Mike was he had to actually book a hypothetical 2021 TLC card. So let me take a swig of water, Mike. Now I'm going to go bullet points here on my fantasy booking challenge of what happens here. So Mr. Kennedy at WrestleMania 23 wins the Money in the Bank ladder match. The match goes on the way it is. I don't change that.
No, because it was a good match. It's a good match.
Very good match. Everyone's in there. Yada, yada, yada. Jeff Hardy almost literally dies in the match. It was very good.
Was that one, wasn't it?
I thought Edge died. So, I mean, it was, but I'm glad he's okay. It was a good match overall. So Edge is furious that he lost it because he technically never actually lost. He was taken out. So he challenges Mr. Kennedy at Backlash. I followed the pay-per-views that year too. Challenges him for it at Backlash. Now, originally, Edge did challenge it or whatever because Mr. Kennedy was actually hurt legitimately, so they had to take it off of him. But, hypothetically speaking, he's not injured. He's okay. He's all fine and healthy, and nothing else happens with him. Suspension, otherwise, we don't talk about that. So, Kennedy actually wins it. He beats Edge. And for the next couple of weeks, Kennedy pops up on different shows. You know how Mr. Kennedy is with the microphone and all that stuff, too. Goes to SmackDown, goes to Raw with the microphone, either in the commentary booth or just backstage walking around, because you can just picture how Mr. Kennedy would be when he fully had the contract walking around. I'm picturing it, and it's really funny.
Yes.
So still enraged by this, you know how Edge is. He's still a maniac. Edge challenges him for the contract at Judgment Day, but puts his career on the line. This writes off because legitimately Edge did get injured a few months later. So this kind of ties in where like he actually legitimately gets put off TV because he's recovering from an injury.
Mm-hmm.
So Kennedy wins. Edge is gone for a little bit. And another future booking, we'll figure it out from what happens. So ECW One Night Stand rolls around and Kennedy shows up and the crowd booed him. Can you imagine Kennedy at a crowd at the ECW One Night Stand?
Oh, God.
Yeah. And you know how he is. He doesn't have a match, but he says he will cash in soon, but he's going to walk around, kind of mess with the ECW fans and whatnot, too. Cena beats the Great Khali in the main event. Remember that for the WWE title. Kennedy teases cashing in, but never does it. Look at that. A little bit of a teaser there. Get into that a little bit later. So on the next episode on Raw, it is announced that there will be a gauntlet match to challenge Cena at the Great American Bash. The next pay-per-view.
Oh, God, I missed that pay-per-view so much.
But guess who enters himself in the gauntlet match? Didn't use the contract. Mr. Kennedy. And it was Kennedy. And Kennedy wins the gauntlet match, by the way, to become number one contender. You're going to wonder why he still has the briefcase. Everybody, I know this is all over the place. He wins the WWE title at Great American Bash. So he's the WWE champion and also Mr. Money in the Bank. We're going to get to it. Kennedy continues his feud with John Cena after beating him at SummerSlam. That's the next pay-per-view. Triple H comes back. He came back around this time. Triple H is next in line to challenge him, but then loses to him at the No Mercy pay-per-view, I believe was the next one. So at Cyber Sunday, it rolls around, and Kennedy is voted to defend against Triple H in a steel cage match. Remember Cyber Sunday? The good old...
I miss Cyber Sunday. That was a good concept.
It would work now.
It 100%.
It wouldn't work now. It didn't work back then.
Yeah, in a social media age that we're in now, yeah, 100%, that'd be a great pay-per-view.
So Kennedy defends, so he beats Cena, Triple H. He's legitimately, boom, he's your guy, right? But he's also Mr. Money in the Bank. So what happens heading into Survivor Series, I go a little old school, new school, and the old school, where it's going to be a champion versus champion match, but not for the title, just overall how it goes. Batista is your world heavyweight champion, and Mr. Kennedy is your WWE champion. All right. So on the side of this whole thing, this is my add-on because I forgot to mention this part, and I added it on literally right before. So this is why it kind of a little bit whatever. Mr. McMahon announces that he has an illegitimate son.
Knew it.
Yeah,
knew it.
I was like, oh, I got to add this somewhere.
Yeah.
So the same stuff happens. People be like, oh, I'm your legitimate son. Crime time comes with I could be, and they do the money, yeah, that whole thing. So like everything happens with that, but it ends in Survivor Series. So the Survivor Series match happens. Mr. Kennedy beats Batista. Remember, it's not for the title. It's whatever. But Mr. McMahon comes out to congratulate him. And remember the guy that was with him saying turns a illegitimate son his hornswoggle, whatever?
Yeah.
He comes out with Mr. McMahon, and Mr. McMahon, well, the guy with Mr. McMahon tells him, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. McMahon is your illegitimate father. Like, that is your actual father. Like, the whole, remember how it was supposed to be originally Mr. Kennedy?
It was, yeah.
So Vince is so happy about it because he loves Mr. Kennedy. Like, he's a big fan of him, whatever. So Mr. McMahon gives him a opportunity here. He says, since you are my son, he says the whole thing, you are my seed and whatever. You know how he is. He's crazy.
Yeah, the weird.
Yeah. He says, you could do whatever you want for 24 hours in the company. 24 hours, you could do whatever you want. Now, mind you, Batista's still on the ground recovering from the brutal beatdown.
No.
What does Mr. Kennedy do?
No.
Right away, he just cashes in and is your world heavyweight champion and becomes double champion. And then you can do whatever you want after that, too. I know it's a little out there, a little bit crazy.
No, that's really good.
Because I feel like you could do that. I feel like you could have. I feel like if Kennedy didn't get hurt or with the steroids, they could have done that. Maybe a cash in and then be champion or something, like a cash in champion, then the son. But I kind of add that double champion. I feel like So
that's good. That's real good.
Yeah, I figured I tried a little bit. Thank you.
Bravo.